This is good.
Still work?
I don't know. Try it. This doesn't work. Oh, fuck. Ah, there we go.
Ready?
Wait. I'm gonna stand behind you.
So they're making me do this again, have someone to introduce, but I'm really kind of afraid because yesterday you did threaten to kill us all.
It's just how we talk where I come from. That's our hello. It's colloquial. It's an expression. It's an expression.
So he does a bunch of dancer, although I haven't really seen him dance much.
I can't dance. It's not.
And he is now here to tell us something about joy, which hopefully is better than death. Here he is, Sawyer.
Hi everyone. I want to make a brief announcement before I start. The shirt that I'm wearing has 3 X's, and some people thought that it meant something other than Amsterdam. The X's are for St. Andrew's Cross, and this is our shirt for the Amsterdam X group in Amsterdam. We have 2 pro-mongers, Amsterdam PM and Amsterdam X PM. We love each other very much. They're both great groups. So if you're ever in Amsterdam, come visit us, and that's what this means, just so you know. So, I don't even know where to begin. I wrote a description for this talk because I was asked to write a description for the talk. And I didn't really know what I wanted to talk about yet. Kind of had vague ideas, but I did write something. I want to share what I wrote. It goes like this. Small memories flooding our consciousness like a river of delightful experiences, carrying us through our lives, tugging at our hearts, pointing us towards endless appreciation of what many fall prey to forgetting, our love of solving puzzles, and our joy of transforming reality and life itself. I hope that by the end of this talk you would understand what I meant by this. So, back to the actual talk. I was thinking of this. You know, I kind of want to tell you where this all came from. And it all started with this guy. No, wait, not this guy. I mean John. Whose slides are these? Not this John. Let me see. Yeah, there we go. Okay, this John. Yeah, you can give him applause. It's great. That's Dr. John Gene Hack fucking Anderson. That is his full name. You can check his ID. And he also makes an appearance on Google Images when you search for Scary Man. I shit you not. I'm not kidding. I did this, and this is what came up. You might have seen John around here somewhere. This is him with some anonymous random dude. This is him when you ask for help. And this is a picture of him with his dog Sammy doing, I don't even want to know what. I would not be surprised if he leaves this conference in handcuffs. But a while ago, John gave a talk. And he gives a lot of talks, pretty good talks. And he mentioned a band he really likes, the Hold Steady. And they have this thing at their shows where they tell their audience there is so much joy in what we do up here. And that really resonated with me. I thought a lot about it. And it made me think, if I ever get to do a keynote, right, I would call it the Joy in What We Do. And I wrote about it. A while later, John actually asked me to give a keynote, which just goes to show you how fucking smart he is, which is not very. Of course, I immediately agreed, which just goes to show you how fucking smart I am, which is not much more. But I was thinking about this, and what is the joy in what we do? And what is the joy in what I do? And I was flooded with a lot of memories. A lot of these small experiences I've had in life. And I'd like to share some of those with you. Unfortunately for you, you're stuck here, so you will hear them. I remember when WinNuke came out. Does anyone remember this? You can raise your hands, you don't have to. Very few people. Really? I thought the community was old. What the fuck? Nothing? Okay. I know you're old, that's fine. Okay. WinNuke was a bug in the ICMP stack frame of Windows 95. If you sent an oversized packet, it would crash the entire operating system. Very stable. And one of the first things I wrote was actually a small application to re-implement WinNuke. Our computer classes were basically reduced to just crashing each other's computers over the net. All day long. I remember NetBus. NetBus was the first famous and successful Trojan horse. Right? And you can do a lot of things with NetBus. You can probably see here. You can redirect your applications and a user's application and ports, and you can add some listeners, and you can send text and show images and you know, swap the mouse buttons and start programs and get screenshots. You can do a lot of stuff. Basically, we did this. We thought that opening and closing someone's CD-ROM was the funniest thing in the world. It was.
Hey, you need a coffee holder.
What?
Coffee cup holder. Not the,
Didn't I say something about trolling? Didn't we talk about this? So, I actually did something else with it. I actually got people's ISP credentials. I didn't really use them. I was just bored. A friend of mine did use them. From that point on, I was banned from being on the computer when he is asleep. He just would turn on the air conditioner. They would get so cold I would fall asleep after him. It didn't really help because I stayed online at home. So I started writing code, and one of the first things I had to do was handle CSV files. I didn't know what CSV files were. I just knew that I had a couple of files, and they had values, and those values were separated by a comma. I guess you could say there were comma-separated values files. But I didn't know what it was, but I had to write a parser for it, and I wrote one in C. And it wasn't as good as text CSV access, which I would definitely use nowadays. And I didn't even know Perl, but it did prevent my need from working with MySQL Server, which is a shitty piece of software. I hated it. And I was happy that I could work with C instead of this. I wrote like a shitty parser in C, and it was fine. SQL Server, after, I don't know, 60,000 rows, just stops working. Diablo came out when I was a kid. I was still at school. Yes, I'm 14. And I recall there were rumors about a bunch of kids at my school who actually broke into school to play Diablo because we all had shitty internet and wanted to play online. Of course, I can't say more about this topic because I wasn't involved, and I have no idea who these kids were. I was not one of them, but you can talk to me later if you want more details. I started learning assembly. So I learned myself some assembly. Kind of looks like this. And the first thing you think of when you see this, other than in your case this, is I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. None at all. Someone who's still writing an assembly. But after a while, this is the good part, after a while it starts to look like this. And you start to understand it. It kind of makes sense. And the interesting thing here is that when you start understanding this, and when you realize that you can disassemble any compiled binary to assembly code that the operating system does understand, then suddenly, hey, if I have an hex editor, I can play with this code if I can read it, and if I know how to write it. So suddenly, I can change pieces of code. Of course, it's assembly, it's not easy, but here's the fun fact. You can actually find the if conditions in this code. They are jumps. They are conditional jumps, which is sort of what if conditions are. And what happens is that you have a bunch of code, and if there's a condition there that says, well, check this serial number and see if it validates. And if so, let it continue. If it doesn't validate, jump to this point that actually says, no, you have a wrong serial number. You cannot use this program. Or check if it's past expiration and then shut down the program. And if I have a hex editor and I can find that jump, I can actually just switch it. And suddenly, if I don't have the right key, it's cool. And I can register the application. And this was, I was still on, like halfway through on Windows, halfway on Slackware. It was kind of weird. And you know, I started cracking applications. When you realize that you can crack an application, this becomes your life. It was so much fun. I started cracking applications. Pretty much every application in game I tried cracking. I was successful in some, not in others. Sometimes I would just change the jump. Sometimes I would just disable the jump completely with a no-op. And then it's like, I'm going to do a test. No, you're not. You're going to let me use the fucking program. Which is not legal in some cases, I guess. But it was a very good learning experience for me. Here's a tip. Cubase is a fantastic audio processing software. And in a relatively recent version, they noticed something really strange. The cracked version was faster. The cracked version was faster for actually a legitimate reason. You see, Cubase, the legitimate legal copy, would check all the time that it is a legal copy. And the cracked version basically disabled a ton of checks. So it was way faster. And what people did was buy Cubase and then download a cracked version. And use the cracked version. Apparently, if you treat your clients as potential felons, it doesn't pan out that well in performance either. And people didn't like it. So this is a possible value to us all. We can, you know, crack your software. It will run faster. Or use free software, where you're not a potential felon. And yeah, you can give a round of applause for free software. We definitely deserve it. And it doesn't mean you don't pay for it. It just means that you get it. I used Perl to find a place to live. What you're seeing in front of you is Tel Aviv. This is our great coastline at a very dense, what some would call a shithole, which is not too far off. But it is a beautiful area. It's a beautiful place, not the inner city, but the coastline, and you get far from it. And Tel Aviv is very, very condensed. It is so condensed that if you try to find an apartment in Tel Aviv, it goes out of the market in a few days. An apartment does not stay on the market in Tel Aviv for a week. It does not happen, ever. There was a website back then, now there are two. And what they do is help you find an apartment. Landlords can post apartments, and then people search the website all the time and call them up. And there's commercials, and it's all free, which is really nice. The thing is that because apartments get snagged so quickly, you have to monitor the website at least every 30 minutes to see if a new apartment came in, because you need to be the first person to call, and you need to be the first person who actually goes and checks the apartment. Some people actually go check the apartment and sign it right there. It is that crazy. And that was, I don't know, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. It's crazy. And I was not able to do that because I just started a new job. And I needed my time at work. I couldn't sit on the website for a week. An apartment would get listed every few days, so I would actually have to take at least 4 days to just find an apartment, but I have to check the website every 30 seconds. And one of my first Perl programs, I'm very proud of this one, just check the website every single minute, downloaded all of the listings, filtered them by number of rooms, size of the apartment, pictures, area, and so on, and then sent me an email. Hey, here's a new apartment. And I had an alert on my mail program that just said, here's a pop-up, you got another apartment to check. And then I was able to check it, and then I was able to call people right away. It was fantastic. I would call people sometimes 10 or 20 seconds after they posted it. You have never heard people so fucking scared of the internet. They click a button in 5, 4, 3, 2, I ring, hey, I heard you posted an apartment, and I was wondering if I could come check the, and that was really scary, but you know what, it was fucking worth it. I needed a place to live.
Did you get the best one?
Did I what?
Get the best one.
I did, and I actually used that program for friends as well. I remember the first time I started using CPAN modules. More than that, I remember the first time I actually contacted a CPAN author. I saw something weird in a piece of code. I just checked the source on MetaCPAN. It wasn't MetaCPAN. I checked the source on Search CPAN, and I saw something weird. It was an eval on a version variable. I didn't understand why. It was just the version, and someone evaled it. So I emailed the author asking, well, why would you do this? And to my surprise, he actually responded with an answer, detailing and explaining why that would be done, which is something that you can read elsewhere. And you can ask in proper forums where people actually go there in order to help. I emailed him personally. And I thought that was very intrusive afterwards, but he did respond back. And to me, that was a very good experience. That was a great experience. It made me feel really good. It made me feel special. More than when my mom says I'm special. And that was Dave Rolski, who's sitting here. And I'd like to think that we became friends soon after. But that wasn't the only experience I remember there. I remember the first time I tried to learn Poe, which is a great event-based system. I really like it. And I went online, I tried to understand it, and I couldn't. I went on the IRC channel. And the people there were very helpful. Very helpful. Really nice people. And they tried to help me understand, but I just couldn't. Nowadays, I understand it. I give talks about it. It's great. It's fantastic. But back then, I couldn't get it. After about 30 minutes to an hour of trying every possible thing they said, I set out, by their advice, to write an event loop. Not the smartest idea, probably, but they thought it might help. And I was, you know, why not? They're helping me for free. I should try what they say. And after about an hour, and I started doing this, someone else came on the IRC channel and said, "What are you doing? Stop it, stop it. What are you doing?" I said, "Well, you know, they suggested, no, stop, cut it out. Why are you doing this?" And he said, "Well, I'm trying to understand Poe, and I don't get it. And they said that if I do this, I will understand." And he goes, no, stop, don't do that. Let's try something else. Tell me what you don't understand." So I explained it to him, and he sat down with me for close to an hour, again, explaining every little bit that I misunderstood. He explained how it works. He answered all of my questions. He made sure that every time I misunderstood, he would clarify it. It was an amazing experience. And I admit that I don't ever do this, but this time I Googled the person. And it turns out that person was Rocco Caputo, the guy who wrote Poe. And I cannot express how exhilarating the feeling is when someone who wrote an amazingly complicated and well-structured system, wrote all of the documentation for it, wrote all of the guides for it, wrote manuals, articles, everything, to great detail, still took an hour out of his time to sit down with some anonymous person and explain every little bit until they understood. And this is an experience that I don't know if every CPAN author here remembers. I don't know if all of you who write modules and send them out and publish them remember the first time you contacted a CPAN author or you contacted someone in the community for help. But it is amazing. It's an incredible experience. And more than that, it's an incredible opportunity to do something right. So to the CPAN authors here, next time someone contacts you, think about that. Think about what kind of experience you remember having. Think of what kind of experience you would like to have if you didn't have a good one. And that's the kind of experience they should have from you. And whoever here who does not publish things and did not get to talk to any CPAN author yet, please do. Okay? I remember my first bug report. I don't know how many people remember their first bug report. Would you like to show of hands? Someone remembers their first bug report? A few brave souls? Probably beginners. I remember mine. It was to Catalyst. It wasn't exactly to Catalyst. See, I picked up the book by Jonathan Rockway, J-Rock, and I started learning Catalyst a long time ago. And I found a problem. I was using these two modules that were recommended, and I put them in the wrong order, and they crashed. Nowadays, I could probably debug this, but I didn't know Perl that well to debug it at the time. So I submitted a bug report saying, hey, this doesn't actually work. I didn't notice at first the order, but then I realized in the bug report I included that. If I put it in the wrong order, it fails and it crashes. And what happened was, I got a response from Yuval Kojman, a prolific author involved in a lot of amazing projects like Moose and Catalyst. He wrote Kyoku and so on. And I knew of him, but I didn't know him personally. I actually got to meet him when I started organizing Tel Aviv PM. He was the first speaker I got in. And even though I didn't know him personally, I knew what a prolific author he was. And I got a response back from him and I was very excited. I'd opened up my original email, and I looked at the email that I wrote, the ticket that I submitted. And I was looking to make sure that my language was very carefully phrased and understood about it. It probably wasn't. And then I checked for any typos. I probably had a few. And then I read his response. I was so excited about this. I read it, it was like, yes, from RT, and it's Yuval. And I was like, oh my God, my first interaction with this person. And then his response was basically, I'm not going to fix it. And he closed the ticket. You can't win them all. But he made a good point. He said, you know what, you shouldn't have used those. I don't know how they got in the book. We don't really want to maintain those. It's like black magic shit. Like, don't, please, don't. I'm doing you a favor. And he made a good point. And you know what, if Yuval is listening, we miss you, and you owe me my Donnie Darko book. I remember going to YAPSI. That was my first YAPSI, 2010, in Italy. I remember when I started attending Tel Aviv PM meetings. I didn't organize them at first. It took a long time. And it was really, I was scared shitless. Like, terrified. Because these people, they knew what they were talking about. Me, I barely knew my own name. Now, given that didn't change very much, but it was really scary. It was very scary. And I got to meet Gabo Sabo. And he suggested that I go to YAPSI EU. I didn't know anything about it. I was like, YAPSI, me? What are you, nuts? He said, no, you should go. Just go ahead, go. What do you mind? I was like, no, I can't do it. No, you should go. You just go. And he convinced me, and I went. This is actually the reason I'm here. You should blame him for that. And he actually did more than that. He said, you should also give a talk. I was like, what do you mean give a talk? You should give a talk. Don't worry, just give a talk. It'll be fine. Everyone will like it. And it was a horrible talk. And he is actually the reason why you give talks now. So you should blame him for that too. Fine. I've seen it. Thank you. My supportive audience. No hugs till I get off stage. So I gave a talk, and I prepared a graphic for it. It was a talk about Android, and I had the Android robot, and I put some hearts on it. It was like when Perl met Android, and I wanted to use an onion. I didn't know anyone in TPF. Now I know a lot of people in TPF. They're amazing people. I know that they're very approachable, but I was really scared, and I was really nervous, and I was really embarrassed. So I basically picked some random onion picture that was royalty free and used that one instead. I actually dug up the graphic just for you. It's this. And I was very nervous my first talk. I was really, 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 really nervous. People don't know this. I'm still nervous. Every single time I go up here, I'm still shaking. Every single time. But I think my saving grace in that talk was a picture of a cat that was very sad because he had to write Java in order to work on Android. And I felt that was, you know what, when people laughed, I thought, this might work. We'll see. One experience I had recently, I was able to help commit election fraud. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know why there's a picture of Bush, my bad. Yeah, it was a writing competition. And that writing competition, they had this thing, you could just vote. And in order to vote, you would have to send a request. It was a button. And the link had two parameters. It had who I was, an ID, and then who I'm voting for, another ID. Does anyone see a flaw in having a link that contains the ID of the voter and the ID of the person you're voting to? Let me help you out. No cookies, no authentication, no authorization link, or token, nothing at all. You could just submit it. Hey, curl, my ID is 1017. I would like to vote for 14. Success. And it worked. Another interesting perspective was that the voters were serial numbers. That was interesting. What happens if I claim to be 562? It works. 566, it works. So we basically voted for random people from random people. That was a lot of fun. And you know, I like to think that we increased entropy in the name of research. But here's the thing. I'm not sharing these stories because I want you to think I'm cool and awesome. You should already think that way because I am. The thing is, we all have these stories. These stories show us where we come from. They remind us of how much joy we find in what we do. And we look at these stories to guide us in our future endeavors. hoping we would approach them the way we approached our previous ones, with curiosity, eagerness to discover, and unrelenting joy. So, let me ask you, what do you tell someone when they ask you, what do you do? I have two answers. I'm going to share them with you. My first one, you probably know this, I work with computers. It's probably something that a lot of you give as well. I give this answer only to two types of people. One, someone who I don't have the time to sit down with and explain this. The other is someone I don't want to explain this to. This could be, for example, a French customs agent who frisks me when I come into Paris to do a hackathon at Patch PM from Amsterdam thinking that I have drugs in my gym bag full of clothes, for example. My other answer, though, I think is more interesting. I tell people that I solve puzzles for a living. That's what I do. And you know, I actually get extra points for finding an elegant solution, which is really nice. You see, this is what we do. We solve problems. We take the fabric of life and we change it. We take reality and we shape it. This is our profession, our labor, whether we get paid for it or not. The problem is, though, once we've grown up, this changes sometimes. That's probably why we don't want to grow up. We try to do it without doing it. We want to grow up without growing up. Because when you grow up, sometimes you don't approach things with the same idea in mind. You don't approach them with the same concept, with the same drive. I'm going to give you two examples. One is React. Well, it's not really React, but I'm going to use React. How many people here know React? Raise your hands. All right, I see you. It's just, you can keep them up. Please, keep them up. Everyone who's proud of knowing React. Great. How many people here know that React, this key value storage, which is fantastic, we all love it, what language is it written in? If you don't know what language it's written in, you can lower your hands.
If we're not sure.
For the lower your hand.
Give your hand at Erlang.
It is written in Erlang. Thank you. It's a language that I think actually has some commonality with Perl. It's a language that, it's kind of old, so some people think that it doesn't have a lot of nifty stuff and you can't really build awesome things with it, although you can, even though the syntax might seem kind of weird sometimes. But the thing is, if you were certain that, well, I know all of this, I know React, okay, it's written in Erlang, you know this. What version of Erlang? You know what, forget version, what about the libraries that it comes with? What about the dependencies? What about the services? Can you answer all of these? And unless you're a really uptight and crazy sysadmin, you probably don't. And this is the great part. No one fucking cares what version of Erlang it is. No one cares what services it comes with, what dependencies, what libraries. No one cares it's written in Erlang. No one gives a shit. And you know why? Because React is provided as a solution. You just take it, it's all bundled together, you install it, and then you get opt React. It has the language they use, it has the libraries and dependencies, it has all of the executables, it has the init scripts, it has the configuration, everything is there in opt React. You just have it. React wasn't written with like a survey of the audience of would this be okay if it was written in Erlang? They didn't ask you. Basho, the company who wrote it, doesn't give a shit. It doesn't care if you like Erlang. It doesn't care if you cater to a specific version of Erlang. It doesn't care if you have a problem with any of its dependencies or the number of dependencies that it has. It doesn't give a shit. It basically went with its heart. It said, we have an idea, and there is the language that we want to use in order to solve this specific problem. And that's what they did. And what they did afterwards is provide all of it in a package, said, there you go. Install it, enjoy. And that's it. And I think that we can learn quite a lot from this. You see, if we were driven by our sense of enjoyment, we would solve in Perl, or a different problem that we want to solve in Perl. And what we would do is serve a working solution. And that working solution would bundle everything together. We could use whatever Perl we want, we could use whatever libraries we want, and whatever configuration format we want. And what would happen is that we could bundle it, send it off as is, and they could use it as is. And there's no more arguments, and there's no more discussions. Now, in order to bundle it, this is kind of a problem, I know. We have to think of what do we need in order to do this? And what we need is, well, we need a way to define dependencies. Kind of like how cpan allows us to define dependencies. I don't know if anyone knows this, but in a bundle, in a package, in distribution, you actually have to state your dependencies. So we sort of have a format, but we can only have this in a single file format, like a cpan file thing, you know, kind of like, what was that? Cpan file. And cpan file allows us to do that, so we actually have that. But we need an installer. Can we come up with an installer? Something like cpan, but small. Not too big, not a plus size, like a minus size. Well, we have cpan minus. Oh, I forgot. We would need a way to have all of our libraries set up locally, right? We would need to be able to put all the libraries in a directory and then read everything from that directory, like a local libraries directory, kind of like a local lib. I don't remember if there's anything like this in Perl. Right, okay, I think it was local lib. So we have that too. Now, all we're missing is being able to install a Perl interpreter in a different directory. Now, I wish we had something like that, like a way to brew our own Perl, so to speak.
That would be awesome.
Or a way to build our own, like a Perl builder, like a Perl build script, or maybe like a local environment Perl, like a Perl environment, like you know, something like that. If we only had that. Of course we do. We have a lot of those solutions. So I guess the only thing that's left is kind of glue them together, which begs the question, does anyone know a good glue language? I mentioned this to a friend. He actually wrote it. It's here. It's called CCAN. Guga wrote it, Kang Min. And he deserves a lot of credit because he did it in 2 days after I talked to him about it. And I think that we should actually try this and see where we can take this. And maybe we can come up with the same things that allowed Basho to provide a solution in fucking Erlang. But you know what? They did an amazing job. And it's also an amazing piece of software. They did the right thing. I think we can do the right thing too. And we can stop arguing with clients on whether they approve Perl. Or whether we could use the system Perl. Who cares about system Perl? Fuck system Perl.
Hell yeah.
Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Thank you. And while I'm ranting here, and I have some time, I would like to present another problem. It's another example of how we don't approach things from our heart. When we talk a lot about marketing, sharing what we have, we tend to mention an echo chamber. Who here knows this is an echo chamber? Raise your hands. Who was thinking echo chamber? It's fantastic. You're all wrong, please. You're all wrong, please. Larry was right as usual. This is not an echo chamber. You should learn to stop raising your hands. Larry, 2 points. This is the opposite of an echo chamber, actually. This is an anechoic chamber. Don't blame me. This is your language, not mine. And an echo chamber does the opposite of an echo chamber. Okay? An echo chamber, every sound bounces off all of the walls. But in an echoic chamber, it swallows everything. It absorbs all sound. It can drive you nuts, literally. It can really drive you nuts. And we talk about having an echo chamber. What I think we don't have an echo chamber. I think we have an anechoic chamber. What I would like to try and do is convince you that we should have an echo chamber. I would like to convince you that we need to build an echo chamber. And this is what I think we should do. I want you to think of this way. Our tech communities are basically, hopefully, echo chambers with small pinpoint holes in them. When things bounce off all of the walls, they go through those holes to an echo chamber that is outside of it. That would be dynamic languages, and from that on programming, and from that on IT. And that's how people outside the small echo chamber hear of what's going on in the echo chamber. When something is stirring inside the village, and everyone in the village hear about it, probably people outside the village will hear about that too. But we don't have this. We actually swallow the information. And that's sad. That's terrible. What we need to do is talk about it. We need to spread it, but to ourselves. You see, we have a lot of shiny toys, but we don't tell each other about them. I'll give you an example from other communities, how they do this. JavaScript observers. I'm assuming some of you have heard about it. And the idea is this. You make a change to a variable, and a function is called. So if it's a hash or if it's an array, and you add an item or remove, some function is going to be run. I was told about this, and I was thinking, wow, that is fucking tied variables. We have this shit. Now, it doesn't matter if we implement it correctly or they implement it worse. It doesn't really matter. The fact is, when they talked about it, they all talked about it. Every person in JavaScript knows about this. Not everyone in Perl knows about tied hashes or tied arrays, tied variables. And I'm not saying you should use those, go out and so on. But I'm saying that they are very good communicators. We have two good examples. We have strict and we have DBI. There's probably a few more. I think those are really prominent examples because you cannot program in Perl for more than 2 days without someone saying, oh, actually, use strict. Oh, and yeah, if you want databases, use DBI. So we need to be able to do this with other stuff that we have. And we don't do this. If we bounce off ideas enough with each other, people outside will hear about it. Not everyone who follows you on Twitter is a Perl programmer. But if you constantly talk about the stuff that you see in Perl, not necessarily stuff that you're going to use, they will hear about it. Not everyone's an early adopter. I would say it's less than 5% with my made-up statistics. But that's how it is. Early adopters are not a big percentage. And we don't need to reach the early adopters. We just need to share the concepts and ideas. So I think that we need to build an echo chamber. And, you know, I think we could do way better than echo chambers of other communities. I think we could do something really nice. We can build an echo chamber kind of like Ruby, right? But without the rockstar bullshit. It could be kind of like Python, but without the arrogance and pretentiousness. It could be like Node.js, but without any fucking hipsters. It would be our echo chamber. Now, in order to help you build this echo chamber, I'm going to give you a bunch of examples of stuff that we should be excited about. Stuff that everyone should know about, even if you're going to use them, and if you're not going to use them. And stuff that I want you to share with other people. And those people will be your friends, those people will be your coworkers, all right? Those people will be other people at the conference, okay? I don't blame anyone who doesn't know about these. My suggestion is to those who do know about it, okay? Share with other people. Talk about these crazy things that you're seeing. In Ruby, someone invents the same fucking stupid application that existed since 1994, and everyone's fucking excited. Why? Because they like to get excited. They like to share and go like, look at this piece of thing. This is nice. Why don't we have this? Why would I not tell people about crazy shit? They go like, yeah, well, what do you mean? So here's a nice short list. Devel declare. Devel declare is fucking insane. Do not use it. But what Devel declare actually does is, and try to stay with me, Devel declare tells the interpreter to step aside so he can interpret code that the interpreter was about to interpret, so he can interpret it himself and then provide something the interpreter can then interpret in turn. Now, that is insane. That is insane. This is parsing in Perl without Perl with Perl. That's what it is. If you've ever seen it and you understood it, you go like, holy shit, who came up with this thing? We know who. And everyone who helped. If you do want to use Devel declare, use Devel CallParser instead. Now with this thing, I'm not saying go ahead, use it, you know, do everything with it. But what I'm saying is, with this kind of idea, the sky is no longer the limit. There is no fucking limit. We obliterated the sky. We can parse anything in Perl without Perl, with Perl. That is really the best and most accurate explanation and clearest explanation I can come up with. Someone's choking in the back there. Okay. Another one is Devel NYTProf. It's a great profiler. If you want to profile your code, if you want to understand it, if you want to optimize it, you should use this thing. People ask, well, what if I want to speed it up? I think I know where the hotspots are. You don't. Use this. Tim, thank you. This is Devel cover. Devel cover helps us check our testing coverage. And Paul deserves some credit for that. He did a lot of work with it. PJCJ. So give it up. He's not here though. I think you'll appreciate it. This is the one thing I tell people the most about. Data Printer is a very small module that changes your life as a developer because it is a very good tool in your tool set. It is one you will reach out to the most. See, we don't reach out for the heavy tools often. We should reach out to our common tools more, right? Those small things that speed up our work and make it easier. Data Printer is one of those. You can get a print just like Data Dumper, but it's sorted, it's colored, it has introspection, it understands objects, it can find circular reference. It's this fucking thing. And, you know, it's here and we have it. And you should always use it everywhere. It actually has also DDP as a nicer, shorter namespace, and you know the guy wrote it here is available for hugs. Guru, thank you. There are still people who don't know about Moose. If you don't know about Moose, please read up on it. If you do know about Moose, share it with other people. They don't have to use it. We want them to know about it. We want them to then share that knowledge onwards. Somehow it will reach other people. And Moose actually did that. Moose was re-implemented in JavaScript. How do you think that happened? People talked about Moose. That's how it happened. DBIX class. I think DBIX class is interesting because it's not just an ORM. It's not like, well, we also have an ORM. There we go. No, it's a very, very smart ORM. It's a very sophisticated ORM. Ributsushi does a lot of talks about it, and I think we can understand at least 10% of that, right? And we need to share about it. So thanks, Matt, and thanks, Reba, for being the chainsaw berserker maintainer. Going from insanity to insanity, we reached PSGI Plack. PSGI Plack basically said, internet sucks and web sucks, let's fix it. And this is something that came out from a different echo chamber, 2. And we now have this 2. It's like a disease of wonderfulness that spread out. It basically said, you know what? The interaction between servers and applications is really fucked up. Let's change this and let's make a very simple, easy protocol. PSGI is the protocol, Plack is the implementation utilities. And now we can write servers that are Perl-based servers that are really, really, really fast and very accurate for our needs. So look at these things. We came up with those. There's Dancer and WebSimple, Catalyst, Modulicious. They're all great in their own way. Each one caters to a different perspective of what we need and what we want. And I think that people need to know about these, even if you won't use them. I actually got to use all of them. They're great. They really are. You should try them out. Or if you don't like doing web, kind of like me, but if you don't have to use web, or you don't need to, and you don't want to, you can still share them as something amazing that we have. What about these? Local lib, Carton, Pinto. Local lib allows you to install all of your dependencies locally. All the dependencies, you don't give a shit anymore about system dependencies. You have your own copy. Carton allows you to take all of that with you anywhere you go. And then you don't care if there's a module installed or not. You take it along with you, or you have your own local copy of it. You don't care if you have root permissions or not. You don't care if you want multiple versions, but you don't know, like it's impossible to have multiple. Yes, it is possible to have them nowadays. Pinto is a private CPAN. A private fucking CPAN. We have this now. It's incredible. The thing that we talk about the most is what we have. We now made it into an app that anyone can have. You can bring it into your organization. If you use Perl and you have packages in your organization, in your company, get a fucking Pinto. Don't laugh.
I'm sorry, man.
For those that know what Pinto means in other languages, I am sorry. Probably violated some code. Perl Brew, Plenv, and Perl Build are all utilities that allow us to compile our own Perl. You see, other languages are not system languages. Perl is. So we kind of got lulled into this, you know, we're stuck with system Perl, and it's 5.10, and there's nothing to do about that. But there is something to do about it. Install your own Perl. Fuck system Perl. It will always be shitty. Other languages got it right. There weren't system languages. So they thought, well, let's just get the recent version. I'm not going to wait for the Red Hat version of Ruby. That's going to be really fucking old. I'm going to install my own Ruby. Why don't we have that approach? Why don't we have that mentality of, I don't care what is the current situation, I care about what I want to have. What I want to have is 5.20, not 5.8.9. So install your own thing. And these all have different properties, different situations, different requirements. And one of them will definitely suit your needs. Sereal is an amazing serialization format. It's fantastic. It's very, very fast. It was written by incredibly smart individuals whom I am not one of. I think I got that right. And if you're using Storable, stop it. Use this one. Try it out. The benchmarks are through the roof. Signatures. We complained a lot about signatures. We have signatures. Peter Martini, thank you very much. Amazing work. Why doesn't everyone talk about signatures? It's in. It's in. It is finally in. The man crawled on glass in the desert to get it in, and it's in. We have it. Talk to people about it. And he told me some of the ideas that he have on how to push forward with this, which I don't want to share because I want them to succeed. But when they do, I might be on stage again saying, fucking talk about it. Tell your fellow Perl programmers about this. And the last example I'm going to give is the mop. Damn it, Steven. The mop is a meta-object protocol. If you don't know what this is, please read up on it. It's the underlying tenets of Moose. It is insane. Not all languages have it. We're going to have it in Access, NC, in Core. Can I get an amen? Amen. So yeah, all of these are awesome. They're incredible, they're amazing. But I want to make one last note. And you know what, I'm not just stalling because Dr. John needs to sober up before he goes up on stage. That too, but not only that. I want to leave you with one last message. I don't know if you can read this. One of the great things about going to a conference where everyone is excited about the same thing is that excitement is contagious. Jeremy is actually with us. And what I want to do is bring you back to the beginning. To my stories, to your stories. To what brought us all here. I want you to look around you. YAPC is the essence of that feeling. We come here to see each other, to get excited about what we do, and to be reminded of why we do this, whether we get paid for it or not. I want you to approach your next problem, your next puzzle, your next riddle, with the same curiosity, eagerness to learn, love, and joy. The way you approach YAPC, the way you approach your life so far. Because you see, all of our stories, the modules that we use, the applications that we run, the shit that I rant about, YAPC itself, the people you met, the conversations you've had, the talks you've attended, the social events you took part in, all of these things, where we all are right now, and how we feel in this exact moment in time. This is the joy in what we do. Treasure it and never forget it. Thank you.